according to this program, we have 20 minutes for questions and answers. Now it's open to the House. If you indicate to us that you want to ask a question, I think we can send the mic over there. Just give 5 minutes and see. Yes. No questions? Yes, please. Within the end. Rohan, you want to ask a question? You'll be next.
Let me thank all the presenters for their excellent contributions. Let me direct this question to our Attorney General. When the LTT was defeated in May of 2009, the Attorney General developed a very interesting mechanism where of the 11,500 LTT cadres that surrendered or were identified and moved to rehabilitation centers, he developed a system to rehabilitate them rather than take punitive action. In many ways, Sri Lanka surprised many other countries and said that we are going to mainstream their thinking. We are going to use religious, spiritual rehabilitation, vocational rehabilitation, education rehabilitation, social and family rehabilitation, give them a new life, a second life. And I want to ask the Attorney General to explain a little bit about the system of justice. You use the term restorative justice. I thought that this may be a good moment for us to reflect the spirit in which it was done. Thank you.
Yes, Mohan.
Thank you, Dr. Nathan. As you probably know, there are two ways in which one can respond to in terms of a response in the circumstances that we were placed in at that time. There are two types of transnational kind of justice that you can indulge in. Is retributive justice, and the other is restorative justice. I think the words speak for themselves. Retributive as in retribution, and that's something you get back for what you do, as in terms of being punitive. The second type of justice is restorative justice, and that is, as the word itself suggests, restorative. It's not in contrast to being punitive. Now, we looked around the world at that time and studied what the world did at the end of conflicts of the kind that we were placed in, or we were facing. And we found that the world actually practiced, there was a bias to restorative justice. And that was not something foreign to Sri Lanka, because we as a nation, as whatever ethnicity we may belong to, was a nation full of, we flow with affection. We forget our differences, or we forget our animosity against each other, all the ill will. We are very quick to shed it. And restoration was, I suppose the restoration was the ideal thing to do at that particular time. And it was also the lessons that we learned from other jurisdictions, that restorative justice actually really worked in those places in circumstances such as this. Now, why did we choose that? You will appreciate, Dr. Unatha, that the whole conflict itself, in my respectful analysis, and I'm sure my colleagues here would, and all of you would agree, I think stems from not any kind of, not any animosity that we developed with each other, but stems from fundamentally some kind of economic deprivation. Fundamentally. I'm sure there are no born terrorists, in as much as there are no born criminals. Actually, nobody is born a criminal, nobody is born a terrorist. And we thought from the lessons that other countries have learned, they have, after all, today, we sit and talk, we sit and eat, we integrate with sometimes it's the worst of people who have at some point in time fallen out of grace. And God only knows what we do in our private lives, actually, quite frankly. But I mean, we are not paragons of virtue. We don't know what I do when I set out of the building. So, going on that basis, we all fall out of grace at some point in time, coupled with the fact, a recognition of the economic deprivation, not only the North, but most of our people have gone through. And driven, perhaps, for compelling reasons, to resort to some sort of extra kind of, some unusual behavior. And sometimes even resort to terrorism, which we dealt with. Of course, terrorism has to be dealt with. There is no question. But then look at what the conflict left us with at the end of the day. There was mayhem, there was devastation of property, life, limb. A lot was lost. And what was lost is not only what was lost in the North and East, but the whole country lost. Now, are we now in a situation like that, were we to go ahead again and visit them with retribution? No. We recognize the fact that there was enough loss of property, loss of life, loss of limb and life, and that what the need of the hour at that point in time was to try and restore people as much as we can to what they were prior to the conflict. Now, do we have a choice about it? Do we have a choice? Now, after all, the war actually, this conflict brought upon a lot of pain and suffering throughout the country. It was predominantly felt in the North and East. Hundreds of families were without their husbands, wives, children, even in the South. So therefore, we thought the best thing at that point in time was to choose this option of restoring people as much as we can. No amount of money was going to bring the husband back or the child back. But try and help people to get on with their lives. What we needed in the reconciliation process, after all, His Excellency the President and the government started a process it was a humanitarian operation. It was not an operation to vanquish or to vanquish kind of people. It was an operation, it was a humanitarian operation to liberate people from perhaps what was seen as one of the greatest hostage taking the world had ever seen. Now, that being the case, do we visit these people with retributive justice? No. So the government, His Excellency the President, decided that enough was enough, that everything should be put behind us, and we have to look to a future